The content presented is for entertainment purposes only. Some content may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. So the question I've kind of posed to myself is, have the lines between men and women been blurred? And I think there's a long answer, and I think there's a short answer. I think the short answer for me is no. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about it and the things I've been thinking about. It looks like the audio is good, looks like video is good, so I'm just going to continue forward. I'll be honest, when it comes to the differences between men and women and this whole things that have been going on when it comes to trans individuals, I've honestly have been avoiding the topic. However, since the TPR crew, if you want to see or watch or listen to the previous episode, me and the TPR crew, Rianne and Alakai, talked about Roe versus Wade, a bit about abortion, and our thoughts on it and our feelings, and it's been pretty heavy, and we definitely got a little bit of criticism from the clip I put up on TikTok, which is fair. Everybody can have their opinions. Everybody can criticize. It's open forum. We post stuff up. We definitely want people to give us input. We definitely want people to share their thoughts. Even if we disagree, totally cool. We definitely love and appreciate you guys. We do thank you for all of your support. So today's episode is sponsored by viewers like you. So thank you. We do normally stream Mondays, so if you missed 2 days ago, Monday's episode, you can always catch that, the Periodic Review podcast over on Spotify, which is free, so don't forget to watch, listen, and rate the show over there. You can send us all your topic ideas, articles, and video links to theperiodicreview@gmail.com. Streams are subject to change, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click that damn bell, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a content release. The best way to support the channel is to share this live stream with family and friends and crush that like button and leave us a comment down below. We do really appreciate your support, and so welcome to my Dirty 30. My name is Jay Rhymes with the Periodic Review. I like to do these every once in a while when I have a lot of stuff just kind of floating around and shoved into my brain, from either the podcast, the news, the different articles that I've researched. I definitely try to get a lot of information in my brain before I do these. That way I can hopefully reach that 30-minute mark. And so today I did want to talk about a little bit about this whole issue, the differences between men and women, and a little bit about trans individuals. And I just want to, preface it first that I do err on the side of being a good human being first, especially when I'm interacting with different individuals with different views, different hair colors, different dress, or going through the quote-unquote transitional process that they call it nowadays, like SRS and stuff like that. I do want to be respectful. So, like, if I ever come across somebody who, identifies as a trans individual, if they say, well, I know I'm a biological male, but I'd prefer you to refer me as a woman, use she, her pronouns. I don't think I have a real problem with that, especially if it's somebody, that's close to me or friends, or somebody, like, let's say, at some point in time, like we have, different interviews and individuals on the podcast in the future, I will always go on the side of using those reverse pronouns if absolutely necessary, because I like to be kind. I like to be nice. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with the change, that I agree with somebody who has been born a biological male and who identifies as a female now and is considered a trans female. I do not consider them the reverse of their sex. I believe definitely that there's something greater than ourselves out there. I mean, we can only call it God or the universe or, whatever, the great spirit, whatever you want to call it. I do believe there is definitely some kind of divine intervention when it comes to humanity being on this little round ball flying through space, spinning at absurd speeds, and for some strange reason everything feels level and everything feels safe. We don't get too close to the sun, we don't get too far away from the sun, so all the seasons come normally. Nothing's too hot or too cold, and hopefully it stays that way. I mean, you never know. Whether you believe that our journey in this life as humanity, if you believe that we've only been here for 6,000 to 8,000 years, or if you believe that, we've been around for several billion years and we've been developing over many, many multiples of time, or whether you believe we're in parallel universes. I do believe there's something greater than us, and I call that God. I call that God because I just don't know what else to call it. And I do believe that there's some kind of divine spiritualness within us. I mean, whether you call that, God, the Great Spirit, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. I do believe that there is some kind of divine nature within us, and I do believe that it's important, whether religion understands that and whether religion has all the answers to that. That's another topic for another day. But with that being said, I do believe that there is some kind of divine nature within us. I do believe within humanity that we're all brothers and sisters. I very do believe that there is light and dark within us, and depending on the day, depending on the mood, depending on our mental state, we may, lean on the positive or the negative forces within us. With that being said, coming down to a more natural, I really do believe it's self-evident within humans, whether you're male or female. If you want to go on the more scientific level, with the study of biology, you can go down to the DNA level, you can go down to the chromosomes, you can go down to estrogen and testosterone levels within us. Now, granted, there's definitely observable levels as far as some men can be a little bit more effeminate, some women can be a little bit more masculine. But the bottom line is, it's very self-evident to me personally that there is a difference between men and women, male and female. And so to kind of derive into this whole new culture and thought process and theology, and the theories going behind there being a separation between sex and gender, don't get me wrong, I haven't read up too much on it. But some of the things that I've read up on kind of start getting things a little mucky. But the long answer for me is I don't think the lines are really blurred. Now, that's not to say that there are trans individuals out there. There's not we have gays, we have lesbians, we got these trans individuals now. I really don't understand non-binary at this point. I haven't done a ton of research on that and what that means. Just don't identify as either or. I understand asexual, but I don't understand the whole idea is that there's no identifying way of whether you're male or female, and especially when it comes to language, especially over the thousands of years that language has been around, there's always been a male, a female, or a masculine or feminine word for the sexes. Now, I know historically there have been a lot of different individuals, especially when it comes to Roman culture. There was a lot of different individuals in Roman culture, and there was a lot of very open sexuality within that society. It was much more polyamorous. I do understand polyamory, and it's really interesting. And I'm coming. Please understand, I'm coming from a place of love and care. Like, I really do care about my gay friends. I really do care about my lesbian friends. Both married and individuals. If they're open to it, I am always open to giving hugs, and I really do enjoy that platonic affection towards my friends, and my friends doing that platonic affection towards me. I think there is definitely a disconnect when it comes to having non-sexual platonic embracement of each other. I feel like we've, especially with this culture around the coof separating us as far as shaking hands. Now we're doing more fist bumps, and it's 6 feet away, and it's definitely not helped society. It's definitely not helped children development, and there's definitely been some studies going on around talking about all those wonderful things. But when it comes to sexuality, I really do believe that it should only be obviously talked to when it's younger individuals by their parents, or maybe there is a private group that can do it in a very well and comprehensive way. I feel like the educational system has now become a machine which inputs a lot of information and indoctrinates kids to the point that they now are continuing that indoctrination instead of coming up with their own ideas and thoughts. And somebody could say, well, Jay, you could probably say the same thing to you. You've kind of, the way you've grown up and the stuff that you consume, you could probably say that you have definitely a bias against these kinds of things. And I think that's fair. I mean, I can only come across from the different things that I've gone through. I can only come from the place of, where I was, where I have gone through my personal journey and where I'm at now. And so when it comes to this kind of stuff, I really do believe it comes down to the shoulders of the parents to do a good job of teaching their children in a very objective way. I think when you start getting into too much subjectivity, especially when it comes around sexuality, it definitely needs to be at a proper age. Obviously let the parents figure that out. I have my own personal ideas of when to talk about sexuality when it comes to kids. Obviously you want to talk about sex at a time when they are curious about it, and obviously to their mental level and their age. I really don't think it's the school or the government or anybody else to teach, other kids about those kinds of things. And so I think it's really important to have really good parents. Now, in a bubble and in a vacuum, if you're gay, if you're lesbian, if you're trans, if you're non-binary, if you want to consider yourself a furry, or if you want to consider yourself a wolf or a cat or a dog, you identify whatever it is that you feel like you need to do. You live your best life. Obviously, leave children out of it. Don't perpetrate that on children. I don't think that's appropriate. This is my personal opinion. And I think it's really important that, when children start to when of age, 18 or older, consenting adults that have the capacity to mentally, accept or reject that consent. I think that's a real important time to kind of figure yourself out. I think, allowing kids to bark and to meow. I mean, I can't remember where I heard about this. There was I don't remember if I read it or if I heard it on a podcast, but there was basically an article that kind of talked about these more progressive schools which allow children to express themselves how they want to express themselves, and they're not allowed to tell them to stop or to disengage or, hey, you need to pay attention. It's you just let the kids run around and do their thing, and you're supposed to try to maintain order and to teach. Very strange. I think sexuality, when it comes to that, leave it away from kids, keep it out of schools, let the parents deal with that kind of stuff. And then when you come of age, then you can explore your sexuality, obviously with other of age consenting, mentally able to consent, both to ask and receive. And that's really important. Because I don't think there really needs to be a place in that in schools. I don't think there should be. I don't think that children should be consuming any kind of multimedia talking about anything that's involved with LGBT individuals. And I think that's really important because, number one, kids are already confused enough as it is. Number two, they're always very curious. They always ask a lot of questions. And I think it's important that they're not asking those kinds of questions too young. We're already struggling, I think, in this day and age with technology, especially with smartphones. It's very easy for children to access pornography. And I think that's important for people in that industry, just like it's important for the cigarette and nicotine individuals to get kids hooked early, so that they can keep their customers as long as possible, if not indefinite. Again, more of my personal opinions. But I don't think it's too far of a reach to say that if you can get them early, you can keep them for life. And I think from a personal level, I think it's of the negative nature to perpetrate that on children. And I think it's not okay. So let's go ahead and get past that. So when it comes to men and women, I really do believe it's very self-evident. I think for the most part, 99% of the time, you can look at someone and go, that's a man, that's a woman, that's a girl, that's a boy, that's a child, that's a little boy, that's a girl, it's a little girl. Like, I just think it's very self-evident. I don't think I need a lot of data or a lot of, things to study or have a bunch of links to basically say one way or the other if that's easily identifiable. Now, with that being said, again, I totally think it's okay within a bubble for people to be gay, to be lesbian, non-binary, to be trans, whatever you feel like you need to do, live your best life. It's a very liberal view. I just wish that everybody would leave you alone, stop bullying increasingly on those individuals, especially people that are different from them. This is coming from somebody who was bullied all the time in grade school because of my height. The only thing I can say is that it does get better. The bullying does subside. It does lessen, especially into high school. Didn't really have any bullying in high school, which is really strange. Could have been just my predicament. So yeah, I'm totally cool. Go live your best life. As long as you're not a child, as long as you're an adult, go live your best life. Do what you got to do. With that being said, it's very striking the increased portion of individuals who want to unlife themselves, trying to be a little bit family friendly here, because of their belief, because they have gotten into their mind that for some reason they have been born in a different body. Some people say, well, it's all about the brain, and I do disagree with that. Some people say, oh, well, I was born this way. I also disagree with that. But I don't disagree because I hate. I don't disagree because I hate. I just disagree, politely disagree, because this is one of those things where I believe that these individuals are denying not only their their spiritual inheritment of mortality, but I do believe that they're going against their inherent nature, which I think is a lot of the reasons why they're having so much increased mental health issues. And coming from somebody who has mental health just within my own self, I could just imagine if, I believed that I was born in the wrong body, or I believed that I wasn't a man, that I was actually a woman, and so I'm going to start dressing and I'm going to start going through the transitionary surgeries. I'm going to go through the transitionary medications, and I'm going to do all these different things to make me feel like I'm in that other body that I believe that I should be in. So it's kind of hard to look in those shoes, especially with somebody who's never struggled with that personally. Those who've watched all of the episodes, that I struggled with the idea of I might be attracted to men, because all I wanted to do in high school was hang out with my friends, play Pokemon and Magic and World of Warcraft and Diablo, and I just wanted to have a lot of fun and really enjoy my time, because I knew it was fleeting. I knew that if I didn't enjoy that time, and I was so consumed with wanting to grow up and have kids and get married, that I wouldn't enjoy the time that I was in. And so I just wanted to do stuff that I had fun with. And it seemed very women at that time, the young ladies in high school at that time, it seemed very confusing for me. Not because I wasn't attracted to them, but because the complications of relationships when you're that young seemed very complicated to me. And so I just kept to what was simple. And the only reason I questioned my sexuality was because there were parents who said, "Hey, I have this really cute daughter of mine. Why aren't you taking her out on dates? Why aren't you taking her to the drive-in?" Or not drive-in. How old am I? Come on. Take her to the movie theater, or, go laser tag. At that time, laser tag was really big. Hey, why don't you take her on a hike, one weekend or whatever. And there was some girls who were a little bit more forthcoming and aggressive, and I did do some things, but I just didn't do a lot. But it was hard for me during the time when all these different parents were kind of confused that I was not, dating their daughters. But it wasn't because I was struggling with my ssexuality, and the only reason I was questioning it is because the parents were saying, "Hey, we have questions about these things." But because I just wanted to enjoy the time that I was in, because I knew eventually, I was going to move on, and eventually I was going to get, married and have kids. And, I'm at that point right now where unfortunately I don't have kids, and, we've looked into adoption. We looked into, we did some fostering and just had a really, really terrible experience with that. And, it's possible we could go back and, have a better experience, but although my struggle wasn't as much of a struggle as these other individuals are, especially when they're having issues with trying to figure out why, they're male and they should be female, or vice versa. And especially with the rise, I think it's over 40%, 50%, something like that with, I thought I had something pulled up. I can't remember what the percentage was. Let's see if I can find this on the fly. Trans people and suicide ideation. Okay, sure. I was just trying to see. Okay, they are significantly more likely to report having disability due to a physical, mental, or emotional condition, 60% to 27%. They're more likely to delay or not need doctor-prescribed medicine compared to cisgender adults, 32% compared to 11%. So, wow. Okay, so 60% it seems of trans individuals have quite a bit more mental issues. I don't want to say disability. I don't think it's a disability. It's just our brains are just not working the way that they should be for whatever reason. But yeah, that's comparison. Like, yeah, 60 in trans individuals, 27% in straight individuals. They say cisgender. That's, I guess, the new buzzword over the last, 6 to 10 years. 32% compared to 11% for doctor-prescribed medicine for mental health. Yeah, so that's quite high. And I know that as far as like unlifing, again, don't want to be too cryptic, but I don't see the percent for unlifing themselves, which obviously is super, super sad. The rate of suicide attempts is 6 times that of straight people. 3 times more likely to have lifetime unlifing thoughts, 34% to 10%. Wow, that's quite a bit. That's quite a big jump too. Almost 25% more than straight individuals. So there's definitely I think there's definitely a mental component to all of this, and this is coming from somebody who struggled with his depression. I've struggled with suicidal, unlifing ideation. I've struggled with that. I mean, it's definitely been less than a handful of times throughout my lifetime thus far. I would love for that to continue. I have, to not continue upward. And I know there's others that have talked about how trans individuals are going through what's called body dysmorphia, or whatever they're calling it nowadays, where for some reason they just don't feel comfortable in their body. They don't feel comfortable in their skin. And I think the problem is, especially nowadays, I think parents are wanting to be more amenable for children who seemingly, I want to say seemingly, have these thoughts or feelings that, oh, I'm a boy, but I'm a girl, and I'm a boy. And it seems like the data shows, these, at least the things that I have read, have shown that if they continue on the line of raising their children, if they're born a girl, they continue with doing girl things. They're a boy, they continue doing boy things. And obviously some of those things can cross over. Like, I remember playing, like I really enjoyed My Little Pony, when I was really young. And that was, I guess you could have considered it more of a feminine thing to play with ponies and horses and stuff. But I also played Barbies, like with my sister. There's a lot of things that I did that you could have said, oh, well, that's more feminine things and more, a lot of this you can just be like, they're just playing and having fun, and honestly, you can address those kind of things when they get older, when they start understanding or questioning those kinds of things. I think it's real disservice to children when they go, oh, well, this boy is starting to play with dolls, therefore let's start dressing him in heels and a dress. Let's start calling Timmy Tammy, and now Tammy is a trans youth, and let's start getting Tammy on puberty blockers. I think that's a disservice. I think that could be considered child abuse. Again, this is one of my opinions, because it seems that if left to their own devices to kind of figure their stuff out, figure out the differences, boys between girls over time, that they go, oh, okay, and they grow out of it. It seems. I could be wrong. But the data that I've read, the podcasts that I've listened to, it seems like these children kind of grow out of that kind of stuff. Now, there are, I'm sure, a small number of individuals who continue on these lines. They continue to believe these kinds of things. What do you do then? I don't know. But I think that's definitely something for once they get old enough to make their own decisions with their own bodies, once they have their own decisions to do what they need to do to be happy in this life. Again, once you're of age, you do you. But I think it's a disservice to children to kind of play into these different things. And I think when people are taking children away from their parents because they refuse to let them go on puberty blockers, I think if that starts happening in America, I think we're definitely on the wrong path, personally. Now I'm going to kind of wrap this up here a little bit. I have some friends that I grew up with, and I didn't have to worry about the whole trans men and trans women issue, because when I was growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, we didn't have to deal with it. It wasn't really a thing. I mean, we would hear of like she-males, we would hear of like hermaphrodites and things like that. And I think I can agree that there is a third category you can put people in. I mean, it makes up of, I think it was like a 0.0013 something of the population that have the capacity to have, a working a working uterus and a working penis. I mean, and testicles. I mean, I'm guessing that does happen, but it's a very rarity. But anyways, back to my story. So I grew up, had a few friends here and there, and a particular set of friends that lived down the street. We grew up as boys, and we had some weird stuff happen. I'm not going to talk about that. But the thing I did want to talk about is one of my childhood friends that I grew up with as a male has now come out as a trans female, and is now dressing in dresses. I'm sure wearing makeup. Changed their name, so I mean, obviously I'm not going to say the actual name, but he went from a Timmy to a Tammy. And I kind of wanted to talk about how I felt about that. At first, I was just like, really? Huh. Like my first thoughts were, that's interesting, because I never really got that growing up. Now I know he was into, furry stuff. He was into the weeb, culture of like, different animes and stuff like that. And we loved watching animes together. And I still dabble in anime here and there. It's kind of tough when you're married and you have a very strong woman who likes to listen to her politics, and and I like listening to political and philosophies and stuff like that. I'm actually reading some really good books. I got Jordan Peterson's book that I'm reading right now, who's a professed classic liberal, which is interesting. But my thoughts on my friend is that, I still love and care about him, and so now that he is, come out, and now he says, hey, I'm no longer Timmy, I'm now a Tammy. So I'm going to go by she, her pronouns. I mean, it definitely will be difficult for me to remind myself to remember those pronouns, just because I grew up around that person for many, many years, very close friends for many years. Not so much as of late, but when I see her again, obviously I will use she, her pronouns. I think I can get on board with swapping he, her with she, her, and try to keep that straight. I mean, obviously, when you get down to the point where you're talking about different pronouns as far as like using they, them, that's going to be super confusing. Or these different zim, zur, and zur, za, and all sorts of other ones, and noises for pronouns. I think that's getting to the point where it's a bit silly. And if we're gonna have to profess everybody's pronouns before we talk to each other, I will say I am a heterosexual male. My name is Jacob. I go by young, handsome, and rich pronouns. I joke, of course. But I can get on board with doing the other ones, and especially with speaking with trans women and trans men. And I think I could still have a good conversation with them and still be friendly. I don't hate anybody. I definitely, I politely disagree with people as far as, trans individuals believing that, they are a different sex, gender than what they were born with. And I just politely disagree. And I think that we can still live in a world where, we can disagree with each other and we can say, okay, well, that's what you believe. That's interesting. Oh, okay, that's what you believe. That's interesting. And we can still be friendly with each other, and we don't have to be best friends. But I still feel that we can still live in this world and still have a long, healthy, and happy life and not have to worry about all of these wonderful things that are going on in politics and philosophy right now. It's a very weird time, especially looking back at the 90s and 2000s. So thank you guys so much for watching another video. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Obviously, if you have some comments or thoughts, please leave them down below. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer as best as I can from my point of view and from my family to yours. Good night. Hello everyone, Jay Rhymes with the Periodic Review. Today's video is sponsored by viewers like you, so thank you. Hopefully we've earned your subscription today, so don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit that damn bell to turn on your notifications so you don't miss a content release. Check out the video links at the end of every video to view our previous content, as well as visit the description section for more links to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and from my family to yours, good night.